Be sure to hop on over to the Spiritual Broadcast Network. It's the go-to place for all things spiritual. You'll discover internet television shows that you won't find anywhere else. You can also choose from hundreds of hours of spiritual documentaries and movies. You'll enjoy on-demand and live internet television programming 24/7. Best of all, we add new dramas, comedies, talk, and reality shows and more on a daily basis. So why spend countless hours searching the web when you can quickly find just what you want on the Spiritual Broadcast Network? Good evening. Welcome to the Vortex Sarasota show. I'm your host, George Lewis. I have an excellent guest tonight. We're going to have a really fun time and a good conversation. My guest is Fran Marx. She wrote a book called My Success Journal. Actually, it's a workbook and a really nice piece of work. So we're going to be talking about Frances and about Frances's workbook. So welcome.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, I'm really
appreciate being
glad
here.
to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
Before we get into your work, I'd like to talk a bit about you and some of your background.
Mm-hmm.
In reading this, I see that, like me, you've had more than one career.
Correct.
When you stay on planet Earth for a long time and don't die, that happens, doesn't it?
That's right.
I can't even imagine working one job and my whole life and retiring. That just isn't even in my consciousness at all. Obviously not yours either.
Right. As I grew and matured, I would change.
Yeah, there's an evolution goes on, isn't there?
That's right.
We evolve a bit. I guess the first thing, let's take you back a ways. I don't want to know your whole history, but where were you born? What area were you?
Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago. My family's from there. My father and grandfather was from Chicago.
Oh.
Moved to Michigan. A lot of us from the Midwest down
That's
here.
right. Yeah.
Most of us. Very few, like I was talking with your husband before the show, and he's a actual born here person.
That's right.
Boy, there's
5 generations.
very few, left here by comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us were imported in, from Detroit. A lot of us. So, and when did you move to Florida?
1985.
85. I came to Sarasota in 87.
Oh, okay.
And so you must have, did you meet your husband soon after that, or did you?
No, we were married in 94.
In 94. Okay, very good. Good for you. So you switched jobs and changed your marital status?
Right. I've been very fortunate because every job I've ever had for that season of my life, I loved my job.
That's so important, isn't it?
It's very important, and it's really my heart. Most recently, I was the director of guidance at Sarasota Military Academy for 9 years.
Oh, were you there 9 years?
And from the beginning. So initially, I was the guidance department. So during those 9 years, I spoke to every family that came to Sarasota Military Academy.
Uh-huh.
And it was always my heart for them to find their true calling, the students.
Right.
And so I would talk to them and encourage them to start a success journal, and that's where the idea
Yeah, it shows that
started.
idea shows in here. It's very prevalent in here.
Right. And that's been the goal. I started out as a physical education teacher, and then when I started having children, then I stayed home,
Uh-huh.
did some adult education at nights, a couple of nights a week, and then I got involved in gifted education, and I was able to start school after school for gifted students and a summer camp for gifted students.
You wrote a book, too.
No. Well, I did write a book there. Yes, I wrote a comparative analysis of gifted education programs in my area.
Right.
And I learned a lot about myself during that season of my life. I really blossomed, I think, at that point.
It's pretty interesting how working with others really kind of shows us forth, doesn't it?
That's
If
right.
you're paying attention at all, you really start to see yourself in ways you can't without the mirror
Right.
of other people.
So at that time, I worked with an inner core board of women that helped out, and then a broader board that went to all the schools and organized conferences and things like that, informational things. I ran a newsletter because Chicago is so rich with culture. that I would write a newsletter, and I was on everyone's mailing list. So anything there was to do for kids was in the newsletter.
Oh, very cool.
To encourage parents to take their kids to benefit from that. So when I moved to Florida, then I just thought I could do anything.
Well, it's open to me, right?
And I wanted something different. So I had been in education all my working career, and I decided to change totally, and I opened a retail business at the old Gulfgate Mall.
What were you doing? What kind of retail?
I sold pretzels and cookies and lottery tickets.
Oh, boy. That'd be dangerous for me on both levels there. Calories and gambling, right?
Right. So I was very successful there. I was #1 in 3 counties and number 9 out of 7,500 retailers in the state.
Right.
And so then John and I got married, and I felt like I had a new life coming. So, and the mall was closing, so I had a new turn of events in my life. And again, stayed home for a while. I homeschooled for a little bit, and worked with my husband for a little while. And then Sarasota Military Academy was opening up to start, and our daughter wanted to go there.
Do you work for your husband? Do you have you painting walls?
Yes.
Boy, you got to watch a guy like that. Very good.
Yeah, we did that. So I learned a lot there.
Yeah.
And he's a great teacher.
Uh-huh.
And so then when our daughter wanted to go, I went to learn about the school, and I came home, and I was just so excited about the school, and I thought I really would love to be the guidance counselor there, except I didn't have credentials. I had my teaching degree.
Uh-huh.
And so I started out in different capacities, and then the principal said, if you'll go back and get your master's degree, you can be the guidance counselor. And so that's what I did.
Well, that really shows the power of intent, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Intent is like the basis of everything, isn't it?
Yes, and identifying with whatever it is your dream is.
Right, right. Because if you don't have the intent and the belief that the possibility is there,
that's right.
It's like trying to go to New York when you got a road map to Chicago.
That's right.
You're not.
You're never going to get there.
You can't get there.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot get there. So that's quite a school.
It is. It's a great opportunity for people.
It's grown quite
yes.
a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Been very successful there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm proud to have been in on the ground level. And I feel like, the work I did really made an impact.
Had an effect.
During those years to help it
Yeah.
come to where it is now, along with everyone else there that worked from the beginning.
Do you hear from or know of any of the students, that you helped as far as the guidance was concerned?
Yes, I see some occasionally, and I just got an email from one of the students who I asked him to read my book.
Uh-huh.
Before he graduated. He was getting his AA degree and his high school diploma at the same time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was very
Bright
dedicated student.
Yeah.
And so I gave him a copy of the book in gratitude for him taking the time to read it and giving me, some input about it.
Uh-huh.
And I just got an email from him the other night, and it said, "I'm using it. I love it. This is the best book ever." And so it's exciting to hear from a student perspective that's.
It's not only exciting, it's pretty fulfilling, isn't it?
Yes.
You put that kind of effort into something.
Yeah.
And you really want. I know that you weren't looking to make a lot of money with this. You were looking more to help people.
That's right.
I can feel that in your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to me, that's hugely important.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of ways to make money out there.
Yeah.
And I've had some experience myself in writing a book and a workbook.
Mm-hmm.
I know the effort that goes into it, and I also know you really, unless you get published by a mainstream author and you get lucky, you're not going to make a living selling books.
Right.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, most authors who end up with a garage full of books, that never sell. So, well, I can, from my experience with it, I certainly can recommend it.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about your book for a bit here.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, well, let me just turn it to you, and you tell me about your book and how somebody should use it, what they can expect from it,
Mm-hmm.
and where it might take them and why.
Well, I wrote it with the intent to help people identify the good within themselves. I think that's critical, to find out your strengths.
Hugely critical.
And to be aware of your weaknesses so that you know what to work on. If you're ever working in a job or career where your main function is in your weakest areas, you're going to be miserable.
Right.
But if you're working in your strengths, then every day going to work is a joy. And everyone benefits. You benefit, and the company you're working for benefits. Everyone benefits.
And the people around you give you a different kind of feedback than if you're in the other side of that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
A lot of friction the other way.
That's correct. And so that was the intent, is to help people find that. And having several children myself, and when they graduated high school, and we would look back and try to write down everything they did for the 4 years in high school, I realized there's no way to remember what you did 4 years ago.
No way.
So when I was a guidance counselor, I would always recommend that the kids write that down starting in freshman year, and then they can look back on it to see what they've done. That's how that was the seed of the book.
So you had them keeping a diary.
Basically, I would recommend it.
Right.
And a lot of the people would get really excited about the idea. And so I always thought, I need to write this down. And I never had time to do that when I was working. So when I retired, I put that into place, and then I just expanded on it. Because I thought, if you just get a regular journal, it's just a blank book.
Exactly.
And you don't even know
no guidance, no direction.
Where to start.
Right.
In this book, it is a guided discovery, because I ask a lot of questions with that intent in mind, that you will come to terms with finding out who you are.
Right.
And who your true self is, not who somebody says you are.
That's the big problem in the world, isn't it?
What makes you so special?
Yeah.
Someone's always going to be asking you, why are you so special?
Right.
An employer, a school, a scholarship committee, what makes you so special?
And most people have a very difficult time expressing that, don't they?
Correct.
Yeah, hugely difficult time.
And so with this, my hope is that they'll be able to really identify, if you come from a nurturing family, you probably feel really good about yourself, and you feel pretty confident in who you are.
Right.
But if you don't, if you're in a situation where it's not nurturing, and people have told you negative things about yourself most of your life, then that's not really true about you. There are good things in there. And so you need to find what those things are.
Well, and the importance of that is because whatever we're focused on tends to grow, doesn't it?
That's correct.
So if I'm focused on the negative part of me, my life is going to blossom in negativity.
That's right.
Yeah.
And one of the things, the challenges I encourage people to do is, towards the end of the book, I have a section on character development.
Uh-huh.
And I give a character trait, and then I give what it is, and then some challenges. And one of them on the positive attitude is to watch, take heed to what you're listening to, what you're looking at, what you're speaking. And if you can focus on the positive and only have positive things coming in and positive things going out, your life will be transformed. Completely
transformed. Especially when you think about the fact, I'm convinced there's a law that what goes around comes around.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm putting out negativity, that's what's going to keep coming back in my life.
Right.
We see it with people all the time, don't
Mm-hmm.
we?
That's right.
On both sides of that.
And it comes with the belief. So somewhere in there, you have to be able to find that inner good, to have the belief that you can do whatever you desire to do. That there's no boundary no boulder too high to climb over to get to that.
Right. Do you one of the things that you just said that I think was hugely important is about finding out what your assets are,
Mm-hmm.
but also what your negative things are.
That's right.
Some of the self-help stuff in the positive thinking gurus,
Mm-hmm.
even who was it said that Napoleon Hill, whatever the mind can believe, well, that's really not true.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can conceive of being the number one quarterback of the Detroit Lions.
Right.
You know what? Chances are, real poor, that's going to happen
That's true.
for me. So I really have to be able to, to realize that, figure out all of me and come
Mm-hmm.
up with some, some reality within all of this too.
And to realize, too, that when everyone fails, and when you do fail,
Absolutely.
take advantage of it. And just look and say, oh, step back. It's a good time to stop and step back and say, okay, what went wrong with this? How can I change it for the future so I don't make this mistake again?
Success can't really happen without failure, can it?
No.
You know,
You have to learn, and you have to have a balance. Because if you don't have some failure, you don't appreciate your success.
And if you don't skin your knees occasionally, you just really, you have a whole distorted viewpoint.
That's right.
Of things. Edison kind of proved that for us. Thomas Edison, didn't he?
Yeah, 1,000 times he tried and failed, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. And Lincoln
Mhm.
failed at everything, really,
Right, yeah.
until he made president, you know, and changed the whole course of actually the world.
Well, one interesting item I read about Walt Disney one time. When he was 16, he went for a job interview with a newspaper.
Uh-huh.
And the editor told him, I'm not going to hire you. You have no imagination.
Oh, I recall that now, yeah.
If he believed that, we wouldn't have any of the great things that he's developed.
And could you ask for a richer imagination than Walt Disney?
No.
Right? No. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Well, and the same thing with Edison, you know, like I think the conductor of the train whacked him in the head and messed up his hearing and told him he was out of school when he was, 15 or something like that.
Wow.
Which is unfortunate. This day and age, you really have to have school,
That's right.
especially now.
And the competition is great.
It was tough enough when you and I went to school.
And when we were competing against the people in our town or our neighborhood or our city, something like that. Now kids are competing against people throughout the world.
It's global. Yeah.
And everyone else is very hungry
Absolutely.
for success and for being able to get what they want.
And for what we've had here.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had it so long that we're we're quite spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
And
We don't realize the intensity that other people are striving to get what we have.
Yeah. And the other thing, I think when we're raised where we're just given everything, something is missing at that point.
That's right.
We don't have what it takes to really go after. Well, I guess drive is what you just said. That really kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Well, some of it is that if you're not given tasks of responsibility when you're young, you don't feel really of value to the family. Like,
Right.
do they really need you?
Right.
You know, is it really important when, on the olden days or times when people lived on farms and things, if you didn't milk the cow, then nobody had milk.
Exactly.
If you didn't cut the wood, nobody could keep warm or cook the food. We don't have that same situation now. So it's a whole different ballgame.
Well, you know, and the other thing that really fits with what you're saying there is we've kind of lost the idea of the value of discipline, and that discipline done right really is love,
That's right.
because it takes time to discipline right. And, you know, it's like as children, we'll do things we really don't want to do, but we can't help ourselves. And so the discipline helps us, and it just gets and we lost that for many years. I hope, you know, like that we're changing and turning the corner here, but
Well, I'm hoping the journal my success journal, will help kids get to that point.
so are you planning to try and get these into schools and in the educational system?
Yes, among other places.
Yeah, that's going to be a real job right there, isn't it?
Well, I've been talking at Sarasota Military Academy, and I'm lined up to talk at another school soon.
Oh, yeah, I saw that on your website.
Yeah. And so I'm going to be talking to the kids, and today I talked actually to talking about goal setting and the importance of doing those things. And so we talked about that too.
See, one of the things I think you have going for yourself is, other than the fact that this is really well done, and I'm sure it's going to be a big help, is that you have credibility because of your experience. You know, having been a guidance counselor, and that's hugely important. You know. A lot of people will write a book and then go try and get it in here and there, and no credentials. And in this world, they want
You
credentials.
need something, yeah.
Yeah, at least that's a door opener for you. So what is your website? My Success?
MyOwnSuccessJournal.com.
myownsuccessjournal.com. So they can go to that website and buy your workbook?
Correct. And preview the book also.
That's right. You got a very nice preview on the book.
Thank you.
Yeah, it lets you go through and really get an idea if you want to, to really take on the task of this. But it's really an excellent book. So, when did this actually come out?
This month.
This month? Okay, so you're right on the cusp of all this.
That's right.
Very exciting time.
It is very exciting for me.
Yeah. And were you not employed somewhere for quite some time, or?
Since last July, a year ago, July.
So only a year.
It's been about a year.
And you wrote this in the past year.
Right. It was all in there. It just came out. I put it on the paper.
Understand. The work was done before, wasn't it?
That's right.
It's a matter of
Through the
getting
years.
focused and setting down.
That's right.
And
through the years.
Let the pen work itself.
Yes.
Almost feels like automatic writing. It's like it's pretty amazing stuff. So, do you have another book in mind?
Well, we're thinking about working on seeing if we can develop an e-journal so that people will be able to write on their tablets or whatever and keep track of it that way. So I'm working on that. And then
that I think would be really a major thing for you to get them to do that. Everybody's got their tablets these days and their Nook and their this and their that.
Yeah. And so I'm working with a publisher to establish that. And the other thing is my husband and I had a miracle wedding when we got married, and I had written a story about that.
Tell us about that.
Well, when we were going to get married, neither one of us had any money. Actually, I was in debt and he had no money. And so when he asked me, I was...
A painting contractor with no money? That's hard to believe. It's too fast, isn't it, in that business?
Well, we had both been through devastating divorces and
boy.
been single for quite a while.
Right.
And so starting over at an older age puts you a little behind the eight ball.
It sure does.
And so I was all excited and planning the wedding, and he said, well, unless you are hiding something, how are we going to pay for this? And I said,
that's an interesting question, right?
Yes,
yeah.
I said I hadn't thought about the money. So anyway, he said, let's pray about it. So we did. And I was at the mall at the time, and the mall manager came out, asked me what was new, which was unusual. And I said, I'm going to get married. And he said, would you like to get married in the mall? And I said, I don't think so. And he said, well, ask your fiance. So I asked John, and he said, ask the customers too and see how they feel. And they were overly excited. I had several regular customers. And in essence, what happened is the mall put on the most magnificent wedding you could ever imagine. It's like a Cinderella story, only it's true.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And once again, we're back to intent. And along with that, what I heard was a willingness to be open.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
A lot of people work at painting, they'll have a board with pictures of what they want and all that. Well, that's all great. But at the same time, it tends to narrow the focus so much that you can't let in things that just are going to happen for you miraculously, like you're just talking about.
Yeah. So that's called Mall Order Bride.
Mall Order Bride. That's a great story.
So I'm in the process of that.
Yeah, very, very cool. So, are you, another book leading into this, are you thinking about that also?
Well, I want to pursue the other applications that we can use this book for.
First.
Because it can be used in the schools for students. That's perfect.
Right.
It can also be used in business for employee training and to identify if you have your employees in the right positions for their strengths.
That's interesting.
It can be used in career coach and life coach. Those coaches can use it to help their clients learn more about themselves. It can be used in recovery groups. It's so critical. Those people do journal all the time, and it's so critical to have a kind of a guide to help them get on the right track.
Right.
And adults in transition, to just get a better idea of where they're going. Or anyone who really wants to know more about themselves or really get tuned in. Am I really living the life that I want to live, or am I just talking about it and thinking about it but not actually doing anything about it? You know, am I on track to what I want to be doing?
So are you doing any workshops at this point, or you have workshops planned? Or?
Well, I have some book sales set up for the future. I'm going to be, as I said, talking to some of the schools, and I'm going to have a book sale at a conference in Orlando called Women Impacting the Nation.
Uh-huh.
And so they expect quite a few people there, and it's called For Such a Time as This. So that's September 28th and 29th in Orlando. Then I'll be doing a women's conference here, a book sale at a women's conference here at the Bayfront on Tamiami Trail, Bayfront Center, October 4th through the 7th. And then I'll be speaking at another event, the Springboard Spirit, about women overcoming adversity. And that's going to be at Der Dutchman on October 13th. And that's a breakfast and book sale type thing with a panel of other women. And then I'll be at the Florida School Counselor Association annual convention in November 1st through 3rd.
I have a couple suggestions for you, too.
Mm-hmm.
You might go to the Salvation Army.
Absolutely.
They have a huge program there.
That's right.
And David there, I can recommend you to him.
Oh, good.
It's David Sutton, Dr. Sutton, who
Yes.
runs that. And the other thing, have you been to Circle Books? Circle
Not
Books
yet.
is on St. Armand's.
Oh, okay.
On the Circle.
Oh,
Go
yes.
there, what they'll do is they'll set up a book signing for you.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
That's a great idea.
Yeah, go do that. That'll be a good way to introduce
Right now
you.
they're on sale at Living Word
Right.
bookstore in Fruitville. And so they have some, and my they're on Amazon.com. And and so my publisher's in the process of getting a media kit out and all that for me
Right.
to
Great.
pursue some other.
Good. Well, I'm sure you're going to be very successful. with
Thank
it.
you so
Yeah,
much.
It's really a nice book. We are pretty much out of time,
Okay.
but once again, your website?
www.myownsuccessjournal.com.
MyOwnSuccessJournal.com. Definitely give that a try.
Thank you so much for having me. I
Well,
really
it's been
appreciate
my pleasure.
it.
We've had
Thank
a good. Yeah, I told you we'd have a good time. We'd have
Yes.
some fun. It was pretty comfortable.
Very comfortable.
Great.
Thank you, George.
Thank you. So we had a good time here tonight. We have a great guest, and really, My Success Journal. I tell you what, the things that she talks about in here are vital to making the kind of changes that you're going to need to make in order to get where you want to go. You might want to think about picking up a copy of this. Got a great guest lined up for next week, so be sure and come back. And in the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic week.
Be sure to hop on over to the Spiritual Broadcast Network. It's the go-to place for all things spiritual. You'll discover internet television shows that you won't find anywhere else. You can also choose from hundreds of hours of spiritual documentaries and movies. You'll enjoy on-demand and live internet television programming 24/7. Best of all, we add new dramas, comedies, talk, and reality shows and more on a daily basis. So why spend countless hours searching the web when you can quickly find just what you want on the Spiritual Broadcast Network?